For a long time, Africa has been documented as the poorest region in the world, with some people terming it the Dark Continent. Here's some of the ancient African architecture that will reveal that African ancestors were once more civilized than it is thought. Starting at number 5. We have the Great Walls of Zimbabwe. Great Zimbabwe is an extensive stone ruins of an African Iron Age city, which was constructed between the 11th and 14th centuries over an area of 722 hectares in the southern part of modern Zimbabwe. It was the capital of the Kingdom of Zimbabwe, and the whole site is weaved with a centuries-old drainage system which still works, funneling water outside the houses and enclosures down into the valleys. The exact identity of the builders is currently unknown, but local traditions recorded in the 18th and 19th centuries assert that the stoneworks were constructed by the Lemba people. However, the most popular modern archaeological theory is that the structures were erected by the ancestral Shona. Zimbabwe, after which the country was named, means houses of stone in the Shona language. Construction began in the 11th century and continued for over 300 years, making the ruins some of the oldest stone structures in southern Africa, making them a UNESCO World Heritage Site. At its peak, the city housed approximately 25,000 inhabitants, with an economy based on cattle husbandry, crop cultivation, and the trade of gold on the coast of the Indian Ocean. These walls were constructed from granite blocks obtained from the exposed rock of the surrounding hills. Since this rock naturally splits into even slabs and can be broken into smaller sizes, it provided a convenient building resource. Walls were fitted without the use of mortar by laying stones, one on top of the other, each layer slightly more recessed than the last to produce a stabilizing inward slope. With no record of a written language behind, Great Zimbabwe became one of the truly lost civilizations of the world. At number 4, we have Kilwa Swahili in Tanzania. Located just off the Tanzanian coast about 300 kilometers south of Dar es Salaam are the remains of Kilwa Swahili, which was occupied from the 9th to the 19th century and reached its peak of prosperity in the 13th and 14th centuries. Kilwa Swahili was a Swahili trading city, and its prosperity was based on the control of Indian Ocean trade with Arabia, India and China. Particularly between the 13th and 16th centuries, when gold and ivory from the hinterland was traded for silver, carnelians, perfumes, Persian faience and Chinese porcelain. Kilwa Swahili used to mint its own currency in the 11th to 14th centuries and was the single most important trading center on the East African coast. The most significant standing ruins from this period are the Great Mosque, a well-preserved Omani fortress, graves, and the remnants of a great palace that was unrivaled in East Africa for its architectural sophistication and splendor. The Great Mosque, constructed in the 11th century and considerably enlarged in the 13th century, and roofed entirely with domes and vaults, some decorated with embedded Chinese porcelain. In 1498, the Portuguese arrived in East Africa and quickly asserted control over the region's trade, thereafter, leading to the gradual decline in importance, and was finally abandoned. These ruins are of prime importance to our understanding of the development of the Swahili culture and the spread and influence of Islam along the East African coast for 1,000 years from the 9th century. Coming at number 3 is the city of Timbuktu. Located at the gateway to the Sahara Desert lies the ancient city of Timbuktu, which is one of the cities of Africa whose name is the most heavily charged with history. Timbuktu had been a seasonal trading post established in 1100 AC, where the Saharan Desert and the Niger Delta meet, creating a lush and lucrative agricultural zone. Ancient West African kingdoms and the Tuaregs of the southern Sahara used this city as a trading post of gold, salt and manuscripts. It was also an important center for the diffusion of Islamic culture with the University of Sankara and other 180 Quranic schools. The city covers the three main mosques of Jinguruber, Sankara and Sidi Yahya, and 16 cemeteries and mausolea at Timbuktu, which recall the town's golden age during the reign of the Askia. The Jinguruber Mosque, the initial construction of which dates back to Sultan Kankan Musa, returning from a pilgrimage to Mecca, was rebuilt and enlarged between 1570 and 1583. Built in the 14th century, the Sankara Mosque was restored between 1578 and 1582. The world-famed manuscripts of Timbuktu contain centuries of African knowledge and scholarship on topics ranging from maths to astrological charts. Central to the heritage of Mali, they represent the long legacy of written knowledge and academic excellence in Africa. Number 2 on our list is Lalibela, the rock-hewn churches of Ethiopia. At 8,000 feet, on the central plateau of Ethiopia stand 11 churches, each carved from a single, gigantic, block of stone. No bricks, no mortar, no concrete, just rocks sculpted into architecture. Not much is known about who built them or why, but the faithful of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church believe that the churches of Lalibela were built by King Lalibela over a period of 24 years with the assistance of angels. These blocks were further chiseled out, forming doors, windows, columns, various floors, roofs, etc. This gigantic work was further completed with an extensive system of drainage ditches, trenches and ceremonial passages, some with openings to hermit caves and catacombs. The best known of these is Bet Georgius, Church of St. George, that was carved 13 meters deep into stone in the form of a Greek cross. Before the pandemic, over 40,000 visitors came each year to see the churches, which have been UNESCO World Heritage Sites since 1978. Many of the golden paintings on the rocks on the inside of the main churches, like the one on Christ's crucifixion, are really unique. You can still see the colors. The rock-hewn churches of Lalibela are still preserved in their natural settings. The original function of the site as a pilgrimage place still persists and provides evidence of the continuity of social practices. Number 1 on our list is the ancient Egyptian city of Luxor. Luxor is one of the most well-known recognized cities and the capital of ancient Egypt, known famously for its oldest and most ancient Egyptian sites. It was originally known as Thebes, and it contains the ruins of the early temples of Karnak and Luxor and the famed Valley of the Kings. Commissioned by King Amenhotep III of the late 18th dynasty, the temple was built close to the Nile River, and an avenue of sphinxes connected it to the great temple of Amun at Karnak. The modern name Luxor comes from Arabic, meaning palaces. Luxor grew from a small town from the 11th dynasty into a thriving city, renowned for its high social status and as a center for wisdom, art and religious purposes. Around 1,350 Sphinx statues are thought to have lined the 3-kilometer road connecting the temples of Karnak and Luxor. The avenue was used once a year during the Apet festival, when the Egyptians paraded along it carrying the statues of Amun and Mut in a symbolic reenactment of their marriage. The Valley of the Kings dates back to around the 16th to the 11th centuries BC as a necropolis of the pharaonic Egypt's New Kingdom dynasty. It was used as the resting place of the kings of the 18th through to the 21st dynasties, and it was made a World Heritage Site in 1979, together with other Theban sites Karnak, the Valley of the Queens, and the Temple of Luxor. This city has one of the most astonishing outdoor museums on the planet and offers visitors the chance of touring all the ancient antiquities in just a few kilometers. The temples and structures that have stood for thousands of years have also been carefully preserved. If you liked our video, be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell.